Every year, over 1,000 people move to Texas. Not annually, daily, making it the fastest growing state in the entire country. But here's the real mystery. It's not just that people are moving to Texas, it's that almost nobody who gets there ever wants to leave. So what is it about this enormous slab of land, plains, and big city sprawl that has people so thoroughly hooked? Is it the food, the wide open space, or is it something else entirely? Today, we're looking at why people stay in Texas. Texas is so big that it could swallow entire countries whole. At 268,596 square miles, Texas is larger than France. It's bigger than every country in Europe except Russia. If you didn't know that crazy fact, hit that subscribe button along with the bell. If Texas were its own nation, it would rank as the 40th largest country on Earth, ahead of places like Germany, Japan, and the entire United Kingdom combined. Twice over. Driving from the eastern border of Texas to the western tip will take you longer than driving from Chicago to New York. In fact, you could fit New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Delaware, all inside the borders of Texas, with room to spare. And it's not just land. Texas has its own power grid, separate from the rest of the country, run by an organization called ERCOT, covering 90% of the state's electricity. Texas is the only state in the continental U.S. with this kind of independent grid, a holdover from a stubborn refusal, generations ago, to be regulated by the federal government. It's a small detail, but it says something enormous about the Texan mindset. Even the electricity here marches to its own beat. Texas also produces more crude oil than most countries on Earth. If Texas were a country, it would be the third largest oil producer in the world, trailing only the United States as a whole, and Saudi Arabia, except Texas alone, accounts for over 40% of all American crude oil output. It's also home to NASA's Johnson Space Center, where every crewed American space mission has been controlled from since the 1960s. Houston, we have a problem wasn't just a movie line. It's a sentence that's been said for real, from Texas. More times than anywhere else on the planet, there's history dripping from every corner of this state too. 6 different flags have flown over Texas: Spain, France, Mexico, the Republic of Texas, the Confederacy, and the United States. Texas is, in fact, the only state in the Union that was once its own independent nation, recognized internationally, with its own embassies in places like France and England. For 9 years, from 1836 to 1845, Texas wasn't part of America at all. It was its own country, complete with its own president, currency, and army. That spirit of independence never really left. Ask any Texan, and they'll tell you, in some sense, Texas never stopped being its own republic. So, why do so many people not just move here, but stay? Generation after generation, refusing to leave even when opportunities elsewhere might seem greener. Let's dig into the soul of Texas and find out exactly what makes this place so impossible to quit. Texas's name comes from the Caddo word tejas, meaning friends, or allies. And if there's one word that captures the heart of this state, it might be exactly that. Because before we even get into the land, the food, or the economy, there's something else that keeps people here, something a little harder to quantify: the people themselves. Ask anyone who has spent real time in Texas, and a theme starts to emerge almost immediately. Texans are, by near universal agreement, some of the friendliest, funniest, most easygoing people you'll ever come across. There's a warmth here, a kind of unfiltered hospitality that catches outsiders off guard. Strangers wave at strangers. Cashiers call you honey and mean it. Neighbors show up with casseroles before you've even finished unpacking the moving truck. It's the kind of place where small talk turns into real conversation, and real conversation turns into a standing invitation to Sunday dinner. There's a confidence and humor woven into the Texan personality, an ability to laugh at hardship, to throw a party out of nothing, to make even the most mundane Tuesday night feel like an event. If you're looking for some of the most genuinely fun, big-hearted people in the country, you'll be hard-pressed to find a better concentration of them than right here in Texas. And then there's the food. Texas isn't just a place that has good food, it's a place that has practically invented entire categories of American cuisine. Texas barbecue alone is considered by many food historians and chefs to be one of the finest regional cuisines in the entire world. A slow-smoked, deeply spiced tradition built on brisket, ribs, and sausage, smoked low and slow for as long as 18 hours over post oak wood. Central Texas barbecue joints, Places like Franklin Barbecue in Austin regularly have lines forming before sunrise, with people waiting 4, 5, even 6 hours just for a chance at a plate of smoked brisket. It's not unusual for the day's meat supply to sell out entirely before lunch. Tex-Mex, a uniquely Texan fusion of Mexican and American cooking, was essentially born here, blending the flavors of Mexico with Texan beef, cheese, and spice to create dishes you simply can't find authentically replicated anywhere else. Chili, actual official Texas-style chili, made without beans, thank you very much, was declared the official state dish of Texas in 1977. And Texans take their chili rivalries about as seriously as some people take religion. Add to that the kolaches brought over by Czech immigrants, the chicken fried steak smothered in cream gravy, the breakfast tacos that have inspired genuine civic pride in city ordinances in Austin, and you start to understand why so many transplants, after just a year or two of living here, say they can't imagine eating anywhere else ever again. The food here isn't just sustenance. It's identity, history, and pure, unfiltered pleasure, all on one plate. And then, of course, there's the land itself. Despite its reputation as flat, dusty, and dry, Texas is one of the most ecologically diverse states in the entire country. It contains 10 distinct ecological regions, ranging from the piney woods of East Texas, dense and green, and almost indistinguishable from neighboring Louisiana, to the rugged desert mountains of Big Bend National Park in the west, where the Chisos Mountains rise dramatically out of the Chihuahuan Desert. Big Bend alone is larger than the state of Rhode Island, and it remains one of the least visited national parks in the entire country, which means you can stand on a canyon rim overlooking the Rio Grande and not see another human being for hours. Then there's the Texas Hill Country, a sprawling region of limestone canyons, spring-fed rivers, and wildflower fields that, every spring, erupt into an explosion of bluebonnets so vivid and so vast that families drive for hours just to take photographs in the middle of them. The Gulf Coast offers over 367 miles of coastline and beaches, including Padre Island National Seashore, the longest undeveloped barrier island left in the world. And out in the Panhandle, you'll find Palo Duro Canyon, the second largest canyon in the United States, dwarfed only by the Grand Canyon itself, with walls of red and orange rock that turn the entire landscape into something resembling another planet at sunset. The views in Texas aren't a single thing. They're an entire library of landscapes, each one as breathtaking, in its own way, as anything you'd find out west or up north. This kind of variety is part of what makes Texas so addictive to live in. You're never locked into a single kind of life. Want mountains and desert silence? Drive to Big Bend or Marfa? Want lakes and rolling green hills? Head to the hill country. Want a buzzing, neon-lit downtown with live music spilling out of every bar? Austin, often called the live music capital of the world, has more than 250 live music venues, and on any given night you can hear blues, country, rock, or Tejano pouring out into the street. Want a massive, glittering modern skyline? Houston and Dallas both rank among the largest metro economies in the entire country. If Texas were its own nation, its economy would be the 8th largest in the world, ahead of countries like Italy, Canada, and Russia. Of course, no honest look at Texas would be complete without talking about the heat, the storms, and the sheer unpredictability of the weather here, because if there's one thing that tests a person's resolve to stay in Texas, it's the climate. Summers in much of Texas regularly hit 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and in places like Death Valley's distant cousin, the desert towns near the Mexican border, temperatures have been recorded as high as 120 degrees. Triple-digit heat for weeks on end is simply part of life here, and air conditioning isn't a luxury in Texas. It's a survival tool, with the state burning through more electricity for cooling each summer than almost anywhere else in the country. But it's not just the heat. Texas sits squarely inside what meteorologists call Tornado Alley, and it experiences more tornadoes annually than any other state in the country, averaging around 155 a year. The flat plains of the Panhandle and North Texas offer little resistance to the collision of warm Gulf air and cold fronts sweeping down from the Rockies, creating some of the most violent storm systems on the planet. And then, on the coast, there's the constant threat of hurricanes rolling in off the Gulf of Mexico. Hurricane Harvey, in 2017, dumped over 60 inches of rain on parts of Houston in a matter of days, the highest rainfall total ever recorded from a single storm in U.S. history, flooding tens of thousands of homes and displacing over 30,000 people. And yet, despite all of this, despite the heat that could fry an egg on your dashboard, despite tornadoes that can level a town in minutes, and despite hurricanes that can swallow entire coastlines, people stay. Not just stay, but thrive, rebuild, and come back stronger year after year. There's a phrase you'll hear often if you spend enough time in Texas. Texas Tough. It's not just a slogan. It's a genuine, lived ethos, born from generations of people who have weathered drought, flood, economic booms and busts, and disaster after disaster, and simply refuse to be run off their own land. Part of this resilience comes from the deep, sprawling history of the state itself. Long before Texas was Texas, it was home to dozens of distinct indigenous nations, including the Caddo, the Comanche, the Karankawa, and the Tonkawa, who thrived across these plains and forests for thousands of years before European contact. The Comanche, in particular, became renowned as some of the most skilled horsemen in world history, dominating vast stretches of territory throughout the 18th and 19th centuries, controlling a region so large it was sometimes called Comancheria, stretching across what is now Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and parts of Kansas and Colorado. When Spanish colonizers arrived in the 1500s, they found a land far harder to conquer and settle than they expected, met with fierce resistance and a brutal, unforgiving climate that crushed mission after mission. It wasn't until the early 1800s, when American settlers began moving into the region under Mexican rule, that the population of Texas began to swell. Tensions between these new settlers and the Mexican government eventually exploded into the Texas Revolution in 1835, culminating in the infamous Battle of the Alamo in San Antonio, where a small garrison of Texan defenders, somewhere between 180 and 250 men, held out for 13 days against a Mexican army several thousand strong before being overrun and killed almost to the last man. The battle cry that emerged from that defeat, "Remember the Alamo," became the rallying call that, just weeks later, helped Texan forces secure a decisive victory at the Battle of San Jacinto, winning Texas its independence in a battle that, astonishingly, lasted only 18 minutes. This birth through hardship and against overwhelming odds is baked into the Texan identity in a way that few other American states can claim. Texans don't just live somewhere. They live in a place their ancestors quite literally fought and died to claim and to keep. And that history echoes through every small-town courthouse, every dusty cattle ranch, and every backyard barbecue across the state today. And speaking of cattle, no conversation about Texas would be complete without talking about ranching, a tradition that has shaped not just the economy, but the very identity of the state since its earliest days. Texas is home to more cattle than any other state in the country, with over 12 million head of cattle roaming its plains and pastures, nearly double the next closest state. The King Ranch, located in South Texas, is so enormous that it's larger than the entire state of Rhode Island, spanning over 825,000 acres of land. It's not just a ranch, it's practically its own ecosystem, and it has played a foundational role in the development of modern American cattle ranching, cutting horse training, and even certain breeds of cattle still used across the country today. This ranching heritage feeds directly into another defining feature of Texas culture: the rodeo. The Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo is the largest rodeo in the world, drawing over 2.5 million visitors every year and contributing tens of millions of dollars to local charities and scholarship programs. For 3 weeks every spring, the entire city of Houston transforms with concerts, livestock competitions, carnival rides, and some of the best fried food you'll find anywhere in the country, all built around a celebration of the ranching and cowboy heritage that built this state from the ground up. Of course, modern Texas isn't just about cattle and cowboy boots. It's also a booming hub for technology, business, and innovation. In recent years, companies like Tesla, Oracle, and Hewlett-Packard Enterprise have relocated their headquarters to Texas, drawn by a combination of zero state income tax, a lower cost of living compared to coastal tech hubs, and a famously business-friendly regulatory environment. Austin, in particular, has earned the nickname Silicon Hills, with its tech sector growing so quickly that some neighborhoods have seen housing prices double within a span of just a few years. This influx of new industry and new residents has turned Texas into one of the most economically dynamic states in the entire country, all while somehow still managing to hold on to its small-town charm, its slower southern rhythms, and its deep cultural roots. It's this exact mix, the old and the new, the rugged and the refined, the cowboy boots alongside the tech campuses that makes Texas feel less like a single place and more like an entire world unto itself. You can spend a morning horseback riding through hill country canyons, an afternoon walking through a gleaming downtown skyline, and an evening eating brisket at a roadside smokehouse that's been family-run for 4 generations, all without ever leaving the same state, sometimes all within the same county. And maybe that's the real answer to why people stay. It's not just one thing. It's not just the food, though the food alone could convince most reasonable people to never leave. It's not just the land, though the sheer diversity and beauty of the landscape, from desert mountains to piney forests to wildflower-covered hills, would be enough reason on its own. It's not just the people, though the warmth, humor, and hospitality of Texans is something that genuinely seems to catch newcomers off guard, again and again, in the best possible way. It's the combination of all of it, layered together with a deep, almost stubborn sense of pride and identity that runs through nearly every person who calls this place home. Texans don't just live in Texas, they believe in it, the way you might believe in a friend, a family member, or a cause. There's a reason the phrase "Don't mess with Texas" became not just an anti-littering campaign, but an entire cultural mantra plastered on bumper stickers and t-shirts across the country. There's a reason Texas pride feels less like simple regional loyalty and more like genuine devotion. So while Texas may not have the eerie mystery of the Alaska Triangle or the frozen extremes of the far north, it has something arguably more powerful: a magnetism, a gravity, that pulls people in and then convinces them to stay, year after year, generation after generation. People come to Texas chasing jobs, chasing space, chasing a lower cost of living, or simply chasing a fresh start. But what keeps them here, more often than not, is something a little harder to put into words. The food that makes you feel at home after just one bite, the people who treat you like family before they've even learned your last name, and the views, whether it's a canyon at sunset, a field of bluebonnets in April, or a city skyline lighting up at dusk, that remind you why this enormous, complicated, beautiful state earns the kind of loyalty most places can only dream of inspiring. In the end, Texas isn't just a place people live. It's a place people choose, again and again, even when the heat is unbearable, even when the rest of the country seems to be moving somewhere else entirely. And once you understand the food, the land, and the people that make this place what it is, it's not hard to see why. Thanks for watching today's video. If you enjoyed this deep dive into why people stay in Texas, stay tuned for more.